What makes a great cycling event successful? And why are we more interested in riding further and self-supported than ever before? Hello everyone and welcome back to the Castelli podcast. This is the show where we delve into the world of Castelli and uncover the stories from the people behind the brand. We'll explore what inspires us to create the most performance-driven and comfortable cycling clothing, all aimed at helping cyclists around the world go further in greater comfort. I'm your host, Søren Jensen, Castelli Marketing Manager, and today we have a fantastic episode lined up for you with our own brand manager, Steve Smith, who would like to share his experience and thoughts on riding the 2023 edition of the Tuscany Trail. Steve will take us through his unforgettable 2-day journey riding through Tuscany's stunning scenery and charming towns. Talk about how to prepare for this gravel adventure, what clothing to wear, logistics, and more. Steve shared his story with the rest of the Castelli marketing team over a coffee yesterday morning, so I couldn't resist the opportunity to have him share his story with all of you on the Castelli show today. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with the Tuscany Trail, don't worry, we'll begin with a quick overview of this remarkable event, so sit back, relax, and get ready to be transported to Tuscany. The Tuscany Trail is the first bikepacking event in the world and the first and original unsupported bicycle adventure. It stretches almost 500 kilometers with over 7,000 meters of elevation gain, riding from the north to the south, in and out of central Italy's coast. The route is uploaded on the GPS and to be covered at one's own pace without time limit, self-sufficient, because adventure is a right that must be within everyone's reach as true adventures of the 21st century. From a modest start 10 years ago, the event has now grown to have 3,000 starters and has grown to be one of the biggest bikepacking events in Europe. Cruising along a rolling section of roads or trails, you will find people of all age groups from more than 35 different nations come together, dressed in everything from aero-fitting lycra to casual clothing, with a wide span from tiny to big backpacking bags, steel, carbon and titanium gravel, all-road and mountain bikes. The route takes in several UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Roman buildings from before Christ, and towns that feel like you jumped at least 1,000 years back in time. These amazing centers of culture are surrounded by twisting vineyards, endless olive groves, lines of cypress trees, country houses, and medieval villages. Of course, there's some of the classic rolling hills and wide roads we know from the Strade Bianche and l'Eroica that the area is so famous for. And there's also a broad range of trails, including farm trails, forest roads, cobbles, and paved sections. This is all mixed with amazing local cuisine, public water fountains to stay hydrated, and the steady pace of life makes for an ideal bikepacking destination. This is a tour de force of the Tuscany region with so many highlights and fantastic trails. You really don't know whether to stop at every one and spend 2 weeks riding the route or just soak it all in as you move along, saving those special moments to come back one day and tour it slowly, savoring the route as if it was a tasting tour of all the local specialities of La Bella Toscana. Hey Steve, it's great to have you back on the show. Let's dive straight into where we left off yesterday morning when you shared your riding experience on the Tuscany Trail with the rest of us. To begin with, could you provide us with some details about the event, course, and dates?
So Tuscany Trail is billed as Europe's biggest bikepacking event. So it's a 480 kilometer route through Tuscany, which if you've been to Tuscany, you know there's practically not a single flat meter of roads in Tuscany, but it is one of the most beautiful spots on earth. So 480K, there's a start and there's a finish and there's a route. And what you do in between is up to you. So most people did the intelligent route and tried to do it in 4 days. Number did it in 3 days, which would be about 160K a day. I rode it with Davide Cassani and Alessandro Fior, and we tried to do it in 2 days. So that was our goal as we set out, and pretty much did that. Then there was a few people that did it one shot, which those guys are nuts. So I don't know if anyone finished in under 24 hours, but that would be quite an undertaking.
Wow.
And then there was just a few of us. I didn't see a lot of people doing it in 2 days. A lot of people in 3. I think probably the most popular was 4 days, which is still 120K of gravel a day. So it would be 6-7 hours on the bike.
That's a long day on the bike, yeah. And how was the temperature? Because early June.
We had everything from proper hot to like 12 degrees and pouring down rain. So it was a wide range.
How did you cope with the weather change, both with the rain and hot weather?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the right clothing for that. So the day before, looking at the forecast kind of range, I put in an insulation layer, put in an hydro jacket, of course, a vest, and then generally just went with, I did one day with a premio short, one day with super leggera. And yeah, so I just dressed fairly light because on each day we had some hot weather, and then in the afternoon we had thunderstorms, and then it got nice again towards the evening. Then it got cold or cool towards the evening. So, layering was definitely it. And so on the bike, I had a big seat bag with a change of clothes because I knew I don't want to do two straight 13-hour days in one pair of shorts. So had a full complete change of clothes, and then I had those layers for whatever conditions, either between a pocket and the seat or the frame bag. That way they're really easily accessible, because every time you open up that seat bag, it loses some of the compression, and if it's not compressed well, it sits there and just rocks back and forth. It drives you nuts. Seat bag, I tried to just put in stuff that I needed like the next day, or emergency stuff like a spare tube. I had one spare tube in the frame bag, and then the other one in the seat bag, and all the chargers that I needed that night.
Yeah. So. Did you encounter any difficulties throughout the course?
No. So
by mechanical.
Mechanical was fine. The only kind of semi-mechanical I encountered was it rained so much the first day, the chain went totally dry, and I didn't bring chain lube. And just like at the point when it was kind of starting to bother me, there was I think the only one I saw in 2 days, there was a Shimano neutral support. So pulled in there, fresh bath of oil on the chain, and off we went.
And you also went.
Yeah.
Nice. Must have been tough riding that distance over 2 days in all kind of weather.
With the benefit of hindsight, 2 days was kind of my limit of what I want to do. So we were on the bike 12 and a half hours the first day, 13 hours the second day. That's actual riding time. And then the biggest thing in these long events like this is just keeping your body fueled. So you're stopping to eat, you're stopping for lunch. I mean, there's a good number of stops on the way. So it turned into leaving about 6:30 each morning, and then got to the hotel at 10:30 at night on the first day, and finished it at about 1:30 in the morning on the second day. So
nice.
Yeah, but 7,000 meters of climbing, 60% off-road. Most of that was good gravel. Some of it was on Strade Bianche, which is better than roads. Some of it was on gravel, dirt roads that were kind of rough. And then probably out of the entire 2 days, there was probably 2.5 hours that were on really rough stuff that you'd be happier on a dual suspension mountain bike.
So you guys basically hit the trails also.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you feel about riding in trio with Davide Cassani and Alessandra Fiore?
Yeah, no, it was awesome because the company was really good. Davide, he did it the hard way. He got his first gravel bike the day before the event. It was all new to him. So yeah, he had to learn as he went. But 9 Tours de France means that the guy knows how to ride a bike. Yeah. So he was fine. And then Alessandra, she's done a lot of these ultra things, and she's probably the strongest one of the bunch.
Oh really?
So, yeah. She's a great rider, and so it was good. We were fairly evenly matched. Those guys are faster in the hills than I was, and then on the flats, I don't know why. I've got a climber's physique, but a ruler body motor. But 7,000 meters, there's a lot of climbing there.
That's a lot of climbing. Also, I mean, we know that Terran, or the area of Tuscany with those rolling hills, we all know from the Strade Bianche and the Eroica.
Yeah. But just to put it in perspective, the start of the second day from Buonconvento, on part of the route from the Strade Bianche, the first 55K we did about 1,600 meters, which is the same as the Maratona Sella Ronda.
True.
But there was some flattish sections in there, so the hills were actually steeper. So it was a good challenge.
Yeah. So did you also ride in groups with some other people when you guys left, or?
Yeah. So the way they stage the start is you can start from, I think it starts about 6 in the morning on the 1st of June, and then people, I think that you're supposed to start within the second day. So people starting kind of rolling out all together. And that first day we were almost always with other people. So, I mean, you kind of jump between groups because somebody's fast or somebody's slow or you stop to eat. So
Yeah.
you're not really with the same group the whole time, but you're always with people.
Yeah.
And, we took an approach of more stops to eat, take all our fuel with us, and so it was kind of funny. We passed the same guys like 10 times. So guys that were slow and steady, versus us, which were fast and stoppy.
Where did you stop to eat? Like, did you just have a normal panino, or did you actually stop for some real food, or did you do that in the evening?
Yeah, no. So we, had breakfast before we started, then at 6:30, 6:45, and then about 9:30, there was a great little bar breakfast spot. So we had a second breakfast after 3 hours, and then we rode. We had proper sit-down lunch at a restaurant. Took our break there at Volterra, I guess it was.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
we were pretty much ready by then because there was a long climb up to Volterra, which is pretty challenging. So,
Yeah.
And then, keep it going like that. So, every 2, 3, 4 hours, you got to put in some proper food. Then you're eating bars, or I packed sandwiches. I put it basically in my frame bag was mostly food. I probably had 10,000 calories in that. So that's the biggest thing on these. And that's the message I would give is like, guys, these long events they're kind of fun because it's a big adventure, and they're actually easier than it sounds like. Because if you think about going off and doing a 12-hour ride or 240K of gravel, it sounds really daunting, but the biggest thing there is just you got to go easy because there's nothing your legs can't go hard for that long.
No.
And so what it really becomes is a matter of eating.
Yeah.
So, you got to train a bit for the long distance, but then after that, you just keep the fuel coming in. You got to, you start the day with your tank full, and then you have to kind of feather it down and kind of find that equilibrium where your output is the same as your input.
Yeah.
And then you settle into your pace and you could just go forever.
Who was in charge of all the logistics? Was that you, or was it David and Alessandra?
I was actually going to do the event with another friend of mine with whom I'd done the Veneto gravel. So we've done the Traca together, we've done Jeroboam together, we did Veneto gravel together, so we're pretty evenly matched. And then something came up for him, but in the meantime, I had reserved at Buonconvento, exactly halfway. So it's event like this was challenging because there's so many people out there on the road. You can't just count on finding a spot when you're tired.
No.
You have to plan ahead and pick that where you're going to stop, which means you have to get there.
Right.
And so, so it puts a new challenge to it. Now, so we looked at the route and said, okay, I think we can do 240K that first day. And we did, and we stayed out on it pretty good and got there at 10:30 at night. Would have been nice to have gotten there a little bit earlier but because of the way our timing was, we stopped and ate right before we got to the hotel. I could have pushed on, but then you get to the hotel at 9 o'clock and then it's kind of late to eat. So you kind of, there in the evening, you plan your eat stop basis.
So you arrive there at 9 o'clock, and then you get a shower, clean up your stuff, and then you have dinner. But you don't really sleep that much because in less than 6 hours' time, you need to be back out there on the bike. No, you said you're leaving at 6:30 in the morning.
No, so we went to the hotel at 10:30, just unpacked, took a shower, and then immediately to bed, slept 7.5 hours, and then wake up, eat again, head out 6:30, 6:45. So there's some of these guys that'll sleep 2, 3, 4 hours a night, which I don't understand. There's some guys that'll take, sleep in their tent or a bivy bag, and I don't know. That hot shower and a proper bed to me makes a world of difference because for me, for this stuff, I want to keep a smile on my face. That's my main goal. So if it takes me a little while longer, that's okay.
But you also got a lot of stuff there at night, maybe to charge from phone, from your Wahoo device or Garmin to lights.
Yeah, no. So for sure, you've got all the electronics to charge. Here, I invested into really good lights, and so the big light, on my handlebars, it has an external battery that doubles up as a power bank. So some of the stuff will charge on the way, and then get to the hotel. And it's mostly phone and the bike computer. You got to have the route on there.
Yeah.
And then backlight, of course, you want to have always for safety.
But it must have been amazing also crossing all the hills, because it's not first time for you in Tuscany. I mean, after your 23 years, or 24 years almost, living in Italy.
Years in Italy.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to Tuscany a lot of times, I know, and you've done the Strade Bianche Sportive
every year.
every
So
year.
yeah,
Yeah. So you have a big love for Tuscany and Italy in general.
Eroica, Nova Eroica. So I've been down there a lot. But even so, out of the 480K, I think something close to 400 kilometers of this was all new to me.
Wow.
So a lot of places towns I'd been to, maybe not that road, but also discovered a lot of cool places. I'm definitely going to go back and uh, do a little bit more friendly route and go back with the wife and do it in longer than 2 days.
So that leads to another question here of mine. What sets it apart from other cycling adventures or bikepacking events that you have done?
Oof. I think anyone who's been to Tuscany knows how spectacular it is. So the scenery, just everything about Tuscany is amazing. But here you don't really have big, super long climbs, but not a lot of flat either. So you don't get onto a climb that takes you an hour and a half.
Right.
And then here, generally the roads were okay, a little bit rough in places, but fairly smooth. And then, of course, Tuscany, you've got the advantage of great food the whole time. Even though we did stop at like a pretty low level pizza fast food place, but that was what we needed at that point on the afternoon of the second day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, also riding, I mean, you were riding it with two good friends and just soaking up the beautiful landscapes and being in amazing company. I remember also watching some of your stories that you posted on Instagram or Strava. I mean, you could see it just like, it was something that was enjoyable. It was something that was not a race, even though that you guys rode 240 kilometers and 3,000 plus meters of climbing per day. But so you think this is a bucket list ride?
Definitely, I'd put it up there. Just because it's the spirit of the ride too, because nobody's out there racing.
Yeah.
And so it's just like every hour it's constantly changing. They take you to some absolutely spectacular places. Yeah, so it's really a big adventure. Especially I think if you broke it down into like 3, even better would be 4 days. Like go ahead and push for those 120K you're riding, make it to a hotel by mid-afternoon with a pool.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing 4-day holiday. 2 days is it's at the limit.
It's maybe a little bit limit. Maybe 3 days is better. Maybe I might even join you next year then.
All right.
I'll be up for that one.
Wait,
That was
3 days though is still almost 9 hours a day of riding. So it's still a solid day.
solid day, yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bit more manageable than
Yeah.
2 days.
I need to get some longer rides in. I think the last long one I did was probably 14, maybe even more, 15 years ago when we rode back from the Eurobike show. You remember?
Yeah. Preparation for this is actually a little bit easier than other events because you just have to get in some long days. So, I've done a number of these long. We call them ultra. I mean, ultra to me is more like transcontinental,
Right.
or race across
America,
America.
yeah, more
That
extreme.
stuff is just
Yeah.
the charge. But these long rides like this, I've done enough of them that it's like you have to start a number of months before. They're just building up some longer rides. I know myself well enough. I know how to prepare for these that I'll start really like 2 months before the event, start to put on some proper long rides, getting up over 150, 200 kilometers. And part of it is getting used to the long rides. Part of it is getting your body used to sitting on that bike in that position. So I'll start doing those rides on the bike I'll use in the event.
Yeah.
And then really in the month before the event, I'll start to do some long rides, especially like Saturday, Sunday, back to back, do like 4 or 5 hours one day and 7, 8 the next day. That way you can kind of replicate the depth of that.
Yeah.
But what's most important there is finding your pace, because it's such a fine line between being at an easy pace you can keep going at forever and exploding.
Right.
And to me, it seems like there's probably about a 5 heartbeat difference. For me, it's like my go forever pace is around 130 beats per minute. But like 135, the fuse is lit, and I know that after 6-7 hours, I'll just implode.
Blow, yeah.
And so, what I did for training for this one, because it was like proper hard. Fortunately, during the Giro d'Italia, we had 2 stages that were just about the right distance from my house in Bassano. So, the time trial stage in Cesena, where Remco one, and then pulled out of the Giro. It was 230K from my house, so I left. I wanted to go see the stage anyway, so I could have slept in, got in the car at 10 o'clock, been down there at 12:30 and watched the stage. Instead, I left at 6:30 and rode 8 hours there. Fortunately, it was absolutely about 4.5 hours of that. It absolutely poured down rain. So I got to test the new jacket that's coming in summer 24.
Yeah.
Best jacket ever for the rain.
We'll keep that for another episode. Yeah.
And then the next week was the stage in Bergamo. I didn't know this, but Bergamo and Cesena are exactly the same distance, 229K from my house. But going down to Cesena the first week, I kind of kept it at just the right pace. And I mean, the last hour, it got a little bit hard. I was ready to quit, but good day. The next time going to Bergamo, started off and just felt so good. Felt like I had a wind at my back and a little bit false flat downhill and got to Verona. So after 95K and with like a 33 kilometer an hour average, and it just felt
good. Wow.
It felt like this is my day.
Yeah.
But the heart rate was a little bit high, right? So it felt great. And then sure enough, the numbers don't lie. A couple hours later, it started getting hard, and then in the last 2 hours to Bergamo were absolute suffer fest. I mean, it was bad. One of the biggest disasters of a ride I've had in my time. And it took me like 3-4 days to recover from that. So it's really true. I mean, I'm glad I did that, because really it was a hard realization of where my limit is. We come in 2 weeks later at the Tuscany Trail. I know what my number is. I know to keep it down from that, and so it was really good just to get that internal pacing right. And after that, I mean, the best I felt of the entire 2 days was in the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's like in a stage race when you get into that pace where you can't really push 100%. Like to go up to a maximum effort is hard, but that long diesel level, you can go at it forever.
It was the same, I think, also with Davide and Alexander. I mean, also because you gotta moderate your pace or try not just to fit the pace so it works for everyone within the group. Did you guys also have enough time to just sit on the bike and chat while riding and exploring?
I mean, obviously for this, you're never going that hard. So and a lot of time you're on gravel, so you can ride in a group. You don't have to be single file on a busy road. So,
right. Yeah,
true. Lots of chatting, and then you can find other people on the road. And with Davide, who's a bit of a celebrity here in Italy, he has unending patience to talk to these people.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It's like ambassadors for the sport.
Yeah.
It was a fun 2 days.
Yeah, well, no, we should definitely go down next year, and maybe in a bigger group. That will be more or less everyone on the same.
Doing these in a big group is hard. So,
but
like maybe go with more of us, but have smaller groups.
Because depending on some different pace and goal.
What kills you on these is if you stop too much. And if the bigger the group, there's always somebody has to get something out of their bag, someone has to stop and eat, someone has
mechanical,
and the stops add up.
So I read, I think it was on the website, that there were almost 40 different nations participating at the Tuscany Trail this year. Did you run into people from... Yeah. People,
mostly Europe, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was kind of cool because it was all kinds of people. And there's probably, 25, 30% of the people on mountain bikes.
Yeah. Mountain bikes, okay.
Yeah. And of course, mostly gravel bikes, but people from all over the world. But you can see some people that are definitely coming from more of a racing or speed background. Other people that are, clearly load up the bike and long distance touring kind of background.
So you're even allowed to bring an e-bike on the course, or do they have any regulations for that?
Yeah, I saw one guy with an e-bike and he had 2 batteries, and he was planning to do it in 3 days. But so it's kind of fun because it's just
also open it up to a broader audience.
Yeah, it's just all kinds of people riding bikes and having fun. So it's really a community thing where you're not racing against anybody.
Right. Nice. Now we're talking about bikes. Tell us more about your bike setup, the number of bags you had on there and tires and just a little bit of everything, just to give people kind of an indicator of...
So I, on my original, actually first production run of the Open Up, so Gerard, started a nice thing there. So then I got the 700C wheels, and then put on 45 millimeter Spalby G1. So it's a really fast rolling tire.
It is, yeah.
You don't really need that much extra grip there because you're not in the mud that much, but you'd want a little bit higher volume tire and something fast rolling. Then I had, lights on the bike, not on the helmet for this ride. And then bags, I just had I think it's a 9 or 12 liter seat bag, which kind of struggled to fill it because a seat bag, if you really compact that thing and roll it down so it's almost becomes like a solid piece, then you can really attach it to the frame securely and it doesn't bounce around. And then I had the frame bag underneath the top tube, which the whole length of the top tube, so can put in the tools you need for if you have to fix something, just so it's easy to access. Yeah. And then I just fill that with food, so you can just keep eating as long as I go. And then I'll keep a jacket in my back pocket, and just in case of rain, which indeed we did need that. So yeah, in terms of clothing, what you need to take on these is actually it's kind of interesting because riding for most of 25 hours, from what I know of the wind tunnel and stuff, aero is still important here. So on both days I did put on our aero race jersey because from our calculations, it makes about a 25 minute difference in the overall time of the event, which is huge.
Yeah.
When I got home, I didn't want to be out there for another 20 minutes.
No.
So, and that jersey, it wicks so well, it's so comfortable. It's really, except for some of the gravel hipsters that feel like they need to wear a loose fitting jersey. To me, was absolutely the ideal thing. And then, performance clothing on an event like that is very much about comfort. So I did one day in the Premio, the other day in the Superleggera short. Yeah, it was hotter. So I'm just looking for a really comfortable short that you can wear all day, and at least one part of your body you can kind of forget about. You'll be good. Beyond that, to me, one of the most important parts is the hands. Just because you get your weight on your hands the whole time, and so good glove is important just to keep the padding. And then just for aesthetic reasons on this bike, I have a leather handlebar wrap, so there's no padding, so it's kind of my own fault, but it looks good.
It looks good. So what glove did you?
Yeah, so I did one day in our endurance glove with the gel.
Right.
And the other day in the Rosso Corsa glove. Both of those still have gel to them, so
perfect.
Pad the hands a bit. And on these long events like this, without super technical riding, I've got the bike set up with a nice narrow handlebar. So you see some of these guys with a 78 millimeter handlebars on their gravel bikes, but in this long stuff like this, aero does matter. And so mine's 40 millimeters at the hoods and 46 on the drops.
On the drops,
it's still pretty wide to maneuverable, but those sections where you do need to just knock off the kilometers, you can just settle into an aero position.
Tuck into you, nice.
Then clothing-wise, beyond just the jersey and shorts, which I brought a change of jersey, shorts, socks, everything base layer for the second day. Brought along a hydro jacket for rain, a puffy vest, which is something a little more casual to wear to dinner, but also if it does get cold, you can, it's a good insulation layer. And then I also had a super lightweight wind vest because in the morning it was a little bit cool. Yeah. So those layering pieces that you can put over your jersey really to adapt almost anything you're gonna find. The weather forecast was pretty solid that we weren't going to have real cold, so I didn't have any leg or knee warmers. I did put in a pair of arm warmers for the morning.
Okay,
which felt good. So seamless,
just a regular
arm warmers.
Seamless, yeah.
So just with pieces that are super easy to pack away, you get a lot of warmth and protection, but it's really easy to combine them for anything you might encounter.
Nice. As a conclusion, how would you sum up your experience of riding the Tuscany Trail in a few words?
To me, I've gotten onto this every year, do one, maybe two of these kind of long distance gravel events. It's like it's almost a relief in your cycling because you go off and do something with no pressure and you don't have to go fast. You don't have to train hard for it. And it's just like a celebration of cycling. So to me, it's an absolutely phenomenal addition to all the cycling stuff we do. And to me, it's super fun because there's that longer range preparation from training to dialing in the bike, everything you have to take, because you have to take everything with you, but you don't want to have anything extra. So
Right. Keep it as
the
light as possible.
preparation for it, and then doing these events, you got to find a friend or two to do it with, and so it becomes more of a social thing. Doing one of these, I've seen guys out there. I've actually done parts of some by myself, and it gets kind of lonely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to put kind of that big goal for the season, something to work for, and then you get out there, and actually the event itself just turns into one of your most fun events of the entire season. My approach on these is that do a different one every year.
Okay.
So I don't really want to go back. I did the Traca, which was awesome, but I've done that. The Jeroboam, I've done that. Veneto Gravel, the 700-kilometer one, I've done that.
Done that a few times also.
Yeah. So still looking for the big event for next year. But I guess the final words is that it's a fun change to your cycling routine. And the message I'd really like to get across to people is even the big kilometers like this, it's easier than it sounds. A couple of years ago, if you were talking about riding 480K across a gravel in 2 days, I would have said you're nuts. But then you get into it and learn how to train for these things, and it doesn't take that much time. My big training was those 2 days of the Giro where, I got up a little earlier and got out the house instead of lolling around for a long breakfast, and went down to the event and got a ride back.
Yeah.
You can really focus the event. You just have to get in some of those long rides at low intensity. You got to push yourself over the edge, so you're gonna come home from one of those rides with your tail between your legs. Then you know what you can do, and then.
No, you're right. Also because that you already have a very busy working schedule, and you not saying hardly ever, because you do get out and do a few lunchtime rides now and then, especially. But the thing is more to go out there and test some new products. But then you do the long rides on the weekends. So yeah,
they're therapeutic. Just get out there and enjoy it.
Enjoy it, yeah.
So yeah, Tuscany Trail or Veneto Gravel. There's it's an unlimited number of these, but I'd say set yourself a challenge and go do one. They're pretty fun.
I'll definitely sign up for next year for sure. I'm in.
Okay.
Well, let's just try not to keep the group too big, as you said, and then go in there. I'm sure there will be more people here from the office that would like to join us. I would also drop a few links in the podcast notes for people to find the official website, but also find your Insta and Strava profile if you want to go and check out your performance, or also have, maybe get in touch with you regarding other questions and stuff. I hope that's okay. Sure. Okay, well then, Steve, thanks for joining the podcast. It was always a pleasure. And yeah.
I get out there for my lunchtime right now.
Oh yeah, it's already 12 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Ciao, ciao. Thanks to Steve for joining us on today's episode of the Castelli Pod. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review to help us be seen by other cyclists in the algorithms. Castelli product related question or topic you would like us to take up in a future episode, you can email us. I will drop a link to the email address in the podcast notes, or you can also contact us through the contact form on our website. Thanks again, everyone. Ride safe and see you soon.